They thought power always flowed downward. 500 soldiers stood in formation as the sun burned overhead, waiting for a routine inspection that would soon become legend. No one expected the moment that would silence an entire parade ground and change how authority was understood forever. Asterisk, what city are you watching from today? If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe for more real stories about extraordinary people. Her name was Mara, and to most people she was invisible. She wore a plain uniform with no decorations that caught the eye. She kept her head straight, her posture perfect, her voice measured and calm. She was young, smaller than many around her, and she had learned long ago that assumptions followed her wherever she went. On this base, assumptions were a daily weight she carried without complaint. The visiting general arrived with an escort and an air of certainty that bent the space around him. He was known for his temper and his pride. Stories followed him like shadows, stories of public humiliation, stories of discipline delivered loudly and without mercy. As he paced the lines, his eyes searched for flaws, not excellence. He believed fear kept soldiers sharp. When he reached Mara's unit, he stopped. His gaze lingered on her insignia, then her face. Something about her presence irritated him. Perhaps it was her calm. Perhaps it was the way she did not flinch. He asked a question meant to expose weakness. She answered clearly, accurately, and without fear. The general did not like that. He stepped closer, his voice rising so others could hear. He questioned her competence. He questioned her right to stand there. The formation remained still, but tension spread like a held breath. Mara remained composed. She answered again, respectfully, with facts and clarity. That was when he crossed the line. In front of 500 soldiers, the general struck her. It was meant to be a lesson, a show of dominance. He believed the moment would end with her broken and compliant, another warning etched into memory. It did not end that way. Mara had spent years preparing for moments no one else could see coming. Her past was not written on her uniform. She had trained in places where mistakes meant lives lost. She had learned restraint as carefully as force. The strike was not pain to her. It was a signal. In a single controlled motion, she moved. There was no anger in her face, only precision. She redirected his weight, applied leverage, and used his own momentum against him. The general fell to the ground, unconscious, before anyone could react. Silence consumed the parade ground. 500 soldiers stood frozen, their understanding of rank and power shattered in seconds. No cheers rose. No gasp broke the stillness. It was the kind of quiet that follows truth, the kind that forces reflection. Mara stepped back, standing at attention once more. She did not run. She did not speak. She waited. Medical personnel rushed forward. Officers shouted orders that sounded thin and confused. The general was carried away, his authority reduced to a stretcher and unanswered questions. An investigation followed swiftly. Cameras were reviewed. Witnesses were interviewed. Every detail was examined with a careful eye. What emerged was not a story of insubordination, but one of restraint under assault. Mara's file was open, and with it came revelations that stunned the command staff. She was not a junior soldier as many assumed. She held a rank and a history known only to a few at the highest levels. Her assignment to that base had been intentional. She was there to observe, to evaluate leadership culture, to report on abuses that had long gone unchecked. The general's behavior was not an isolated incident. It was a pattern. Within weeks, changes rippled through the ranks. Policies were rewritten. Training emphasized respect alongside discipline. Leaders were reminded that authority without accountability was weakness, not strength. Mara declined interviews and recognition. She returned to her duties quietly, as she always had. Among the soldiers who witnessed that day, her presence became a source of quiet confidence. They stood a little straighter, spoke a little more honestly, and trusted that dignity mattered. The lesson spread beyond the base. Power, they learned, is not proven by fear. True strength is measured by control, by respect, and by the courage to protect what is right even when the cost is high. Years later, soldiers would still speak of that day in hushed tones, not because of the fall of a general, but because of the rise of a truth they could not ignore. Rank could demand obedience, but character commanded respect. Mara continued her service, unseen and steady. She knew that moments like that were rare, but their impact could last a lifetime. She had not set out to make a statement. She had simply refused to be broken. And in doing so, she reminded everyone watching that dignity is not granted by stripes or stars. It is carried within, ready to stand when it must. What did this story make you feel? Where are you watching from? Subscribe to Soul Relief Stories for more real stories that heal the heart.